Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, welcome. I hope you enjoy. And this is part 2 of my kind of videos about nutrients and fertilizers. And the first part covered the actual fertilizers, whereas this part will be more about the additives and other kind of nutrients that orchids need, or what I use for my orchids. So without further ado, let's just try and get this covered, and hopefully it will be useful but also kind of easy to understand. I also wanted to mention that there is one channel called Rick's Orchids, and he's no longer posting videos on YouTube, but the videos that he has done are still on YouTube, and he was talking a lot about nutrients, you know, and how to kind of fertilize orchids and what each nutrient does to the orchid, to the plant. And honestly, it's so useful, and he got me hooked up on all of these different types of fertilizers and how to use them, and I started kind of experimenting with them from there. So I will link his channel down below if you're interested in this type of stuff and you want to know more. I think really that channel it will give you so much information. It's so useful. So let's go through what you see here. So let me maybe start with this. So this is garden lime, and this is basically calcium and magnesium. You can also use CalMag. There are loads of products that basically have calcium and magnesium in them, and a lot of fertilizers, most kind of often they don't have calcium in the mix, and plants need calcium. I mean, if you just fertilize orchids and you don't give them calcium, they can't really grow. And calcium basically is not a movable nutrient. So as the orchid used up the calcium, it just stays wherever it went, and that's it. It can't move around anymore. There are nutrients that can actually move around the plant. So for example, you will see a yellowing leaf on the plant, and what that means usually is that the plant tries to pull all the nutrients out of that old leaf or old part of the plant. It could be a pseudobulb, it could be a leaf, and it then repositions those nutrients to the newer part of the plant. But it can never do that to calcium. So calcium, wherever it goes, it just sits there. It just gets cemented in the plant, and that's it. It will just not move. So we always have to provide some calcium. So I started using this garden lime, and basically when I got it as a big bag, and they were like small kind of pebbles. They are like quite big, to be honest. So what I did, I just crushed them like that into smaller parts, and you can see there is some even like powder as well. And then what I would do is I would just take some of these and just sprinkle on top of the pots, but I also then water the orchid straight away as well, so just to kind of water it in a little bit. And then these small garden lime parts, they would just sit, these pieces on top of a media or inside, and as I water I can see it kind of dissolving, and it just constantly provides that calcium to the orchids. And then after a month or 6 weeks, I would add more of these in the pots, and I would just sprinkle it on top for a little bit, and then it's good to go. And although I know that my rain mix does have calcium in it, so that's good. You can never really give too much calcium to orchids. If the orchid doesn't need that calcium, it's just not going to take it in. It's just not going to use it. You can't really overdose with calcium, really. So I find it fairly safe to use. Basically, I don't think I can really overdose with it, so I'm okay with it. And that will really help you with new growths. So the new growths will go, they will be a lot stronger, a lot kind of fatter. The pseudobulbs will be bigger and healthier, and you can even get multiple growths on the plant. So if they have enough calcium, they can actually, they can really grow those really nice, beautiful new growths, and healthy, most importantly. But you can use it in liquid form as well. So there's CalMag products that are in liquid form, so you can kind of mix them in water and just spray, either spray it in your plants, or just when you water with your fertilizer, you can add CalMag in. The next one, seaweed. So people have very mixed views about seaweed. So this is basically, hormones for the plants, and that scares people a little bit. When you say hormones, they say, why would you want to mess with the plant's hormones? That just sounds really bad, and you can, make it worse. I don't think about it that way. They just tell the plant what to do. So for example, if it's warm and if it's kind of spring, it just stimulates the plant to grow, and this just kind of enhances that. It doesn't make the plant do weird things, I don't think anyway. And even if I just go kind of through the list, what it says on here, it says that it improves the seed germination, it stimulates root development, and that is the main thing why we use seaweed. So it really tells the plant to grow roots. So when it starts kind of getting the seaweed, it just chucks the roots out. Again, you still need other fertilizers. So if you just use this alone, you're not going to get loads of roots. This just, as I say, the way I think about it is it tells the plant to grow roots, but if it doesn't have the nutrients, if it doesn't have the calcium to grow those roots, to build that mass, that material, it won't do it. So, you can't just say that, okay, I will just use seaweed alone and it will be an amazing, I'll grow an amazing plant. So this is just an additive. That's the thing, you can't just use these things alone. The fertilizers are most important. So you need the fertilizers definitely, kind of constantly. These additives, if you don't want to use them, that's fine, you don't have to. But if you do, you might get better results. But again, it just depends if you're prepared to do so or not. So it also stimulates, it promotes healthy growth in all plants, enhances flowering, and then increases resistance to heat, drought, frost, pest, and disease. So it essentially makes the plants a bit stronger and just kind of grow healthier. So the way I would use it, I usually put it in maybe once a month into my water. So for example, if I would be flushing my orchids, I might add a little bit of seaweed. But there are instructions at the back as well of how to use it and how much to put in. I don't use this at all. I use my TDS meter, and I would maybe put in 30 to 60 ppm of seaweed. So it would be very low concentration. So, if it wasn't good for the plants, the plants wouldn't really even notice that something is killing them. Although, I honestly feel like seaweed is doing a lot of good to the plants, and using it once a month, I think is useful. And I really like the product as well. And then next one here, I've got here Epsom salts. So Epsom salts, I use them less regularly. I would use them maybe 2 to 3 times a year. Sometimes maybe more. I guess it kind of depends. So, but basically what the Epsom salts do is they can, so for example, if you soak your orchids because you want to get rid of a buildup of salts, you can actually add Epsom salts in that water, and it helps to get those buildup salts out of the media. So it's good for that, but it also helps the plants as well. So it basically helps the plants to produce chlorophyll, which is basically the green color in the plants. So makes the plants greener, which means they can photosynthesize better, which then obviously means it can grow better as well. So yeah, so as I say, I don't use it too much. Again, I don't put much in water. If I would mix it up with a fertilizer, I would maybe have about 50 parts per million of Epsom salts. So, you know, very, very low concentration. Epsom salts also, they kind of help to take in other nutrients. So, you know, that's also quite good, because if you fertilize your orchids, you add a little bit of this, it will help the plant to just take those nutrients in easier. So so again, another product that I think is pretty useful. But you know, obviously don't go mad, and again, you know, don't think that if you just use Epsom salts that's enough and your orchids will grow. You know, you'll grow very well without any other kind of fertilizer. And then the last one is silicone. So silicone is something very new in my kind of arsenal. I'm not really using this for a long time, so you know, it's difficult for me to say if it's definitely amazing or not. But what I heard is that it basically makes the plants grow a lot kind of thicker, and you know, the structures are a lot thicker, and you know, just for example, you know, people are saying even if you put this in Phalaenopsis, the leaves, they can just get so hard that not only they cannot bend, but they just snap almost straight away. They almost get like so hard that, you know, they're not flexible whatsoever. So, you know, obviously I'm trying to be steady with it. I don't use this a lot, but what I use it for is it raises the pH and of your water. So for example, when I put the fertilizer in, if it's too low, I would add a couple drops of this to raise the pH, and it barely increases the ppm of the fertilized water, but it increases pH like pretty quickly. But you know, if it gives more strength to the plants and, you know, they get a bit thicker and the structures are getting you know, kind of, they've got more mass, I think that's good as well. I mean, some of my plants, you know, they have kind of weaker leaves and you know, quite thin leaves, or the pseudobulbs are pretty small. So I think this might actually help to just allow them grow a bit bigger. You know, one thing to note in summary is all of these are great, you know, but you know, just do your research and try to understand why you're using them. Don't just use them just for the sake of it, or just because you saw a video and someone said it's good. You know, try to understand why you would need to use it and what would it do to your orchids. I would also say, if you don't want to start messing up with pH and ppm and all of these things, you know, use either kind of a fertilizer you can get in garden centers, or even if you use like a rain mix, or you know, like a proper orchid fertilizer, you know, use it as per instructions, and just, or less. You know, if you use less, you're not gonna harm the plants. You know, they might not get enough nutrition, but they will still grow and they will still be okay. But if you give them too much, you can burn them, and you know, you know, you can do a lot of kind of damage. So that's going to be it for today. So this is the second part, and I said it's going to be a two-part kind of topic. So this kind of concludes it, but one thing I'll do, and maybe not straight away, maybe in a few weeks time or so, I will do another video and I'll show you how I water my orchids. And I've got this kind of watering schedule as well, where I will mark up what kind of, you know, what additives I give to my orchids, and you know, it's going to be related to this topic, but you know, kind of a separate video. So you know, if you're not into this kind of nerdy stuff and you don't really care about this, maybe the watering orchids video might be a little bit more kind of chilled out and a bit easier maybe to you know, to watch. So yeah, hopefully, you know, some of this will be useful. So I hope you guys are liking these videos, and thank you so much for all your subscriptions and all your likes and comments. It honestly means a lot to me that you're supporting my channel, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!